Like many of you, I've been reading a lot of stories this week about reproductive journeys. Lots of stories about pregnancies that were unwanted for various reasons, pregnancies that were wanted, and sadly, where something went wrong. There was one story that was a little different that caught my eye. It was a personal story written by a journalist, remembering when, as a teenager living in Chicago before Roe v. Wade, he and a group of friends helped their friend get an illegal abortion. And they did it through a network of people who provided referrals to women in need of abortions. The group was called Clergy Consultation Services. It was a network of Protestant ministers and of rabbis. One of those rabbis, Rabbi Max Tickton, was actually arrested, although it was decided not to bring charges against him. A lot of the time, people who support bans on abortion claim to be motivated by religious beliefs. But I think it's important to note that plenty of religious people are motivated by religious beliefs and reach a very different conclusion. Our tradition teaches uvacharta b'chayim, choose life. And we have long understood this to mean that access to comprehensive health care is a Jewish value. And we've also long understood this to mean that the life of a living person takes precedence over the life of a potential life. As with any other issue, there's a big range of opinions about abortion in Judaism, but the common principle is that those opinions are anchored in the value of life and also in the idea that in case of danger to a pregnant person, and by the way, that could be physical or emotional or other kinds of danger, an abortion might be permitted or in some cases even required. I think many of us have read about some of the laws and proposed laws that could go into effect if the Supreme Court reverses Roe v. Wade. And those would prevent people from acting in ways that Judaism would consider in some cases to be mandated. And so this issue is not just about reproductive rights, it's actually also an issue of religious freedom that is also being attacked. The draft ruling that we've read about this week also threatens to remove the underpinning of other rights as well, and I do think it's important to mention that. So right now we're talking about reproductive rights, but if this draft actually becomes a published opinion, then there are other rights that could be at risk, like the rights of LGBTQ people to marry, hold a job, or get an education, access to gender-affirming care by transgender children, even access to contraception. So there are really a lot of changes that could be happening based on this draft opinion that's been leaked. The Rabbinical Assembly, the International Association of Conservative Rabbis, has issued a statement calling for full access to all who need abortions to the entire spectrum of reproductive health care. Rabbi Lerner and I sent out a lot more details in an email yesterday, including a number of opportunities to learn more about this with me. I'm going to be speaking on a panel on May 22nd at a synagogue in New Hampshire, but it's going to be Zoomed, and we sent out the link to sign up for that. I'm also going to be speaking with our Rosh Chodesh group, and I believe that's going to be opened to the whole community on June 12th. So check your email for details, and more details will be coming about those opportunities. I'm also helping to organize a group, hopefully I will be going as well, to the Jewish Rally for Abortion Justice on May 17th in Washington, D.C. So if anyone here is interested in coming, please shoot me an email as soon as Shabbat is over, and I'll send more details. Rabbi Lerner spoke a little bit earlier about a famous line from Parshat Kedoshim, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself. One of the sad truths about reproductive health care in our country is that the people who are most impacted by restricted laws are the people who are already most vulnerable and the people who can't afford to travel to another state for the care that they might need. Loving each other as ourselves means creating a world where we all have equal access to the care and support that we need. As we recite the prayer for our country, which we're going to do together in a moment, we can pray that our country live up to its promise of being a place that guarantees life for all of its inhabitants, and remind ourselves to hold our country accountable for those promises. I'll invite us all to rise as we are able on page 177. We'll recite together the alternative prayer for our country in the margin. Our God and God of our ancestors, grant to our country the will and wherewithal to fulfill its calling to justice, liberty, and equality. May each of us fulfill our responsibilities of citizenship with care, generosity, and gratitude, ever conscious of the extraordinary blessing of freedom, ever mindful of our duties to one another. Bless those who volunteer to labor on behalf of us all. May they find the strength and courage to complete their tasks and fulfill their dreams. May our judges, elected leaders, and all who hold public office exercise their responsibilities with wisdom, fairness, and justice for all. Fill them with love and kindness, and bless them that they may walk with integrity on the paths of peace and righteousness. Creator and protector of all, watch over our armed forces and all those entrusted with our safety as they daily put their lives at risk to protect us and our freedoms. Be with them in times of danger. Give them courage to act with honor and dignity, as well as insight to do what is right in your eyes. And courage that we may create a world that reflects your glory. May we each respond to the charge of your prophet. For what does Adonai demand of you but to act justly, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? May the one who brings peace on high bring peace and prosperity to our world and keep us in safety. And let us say, Amen. We'll turn to page 178 to the prayer for the state of Israel. This past week we celebrated Yom HaAtzmaut, the Israel Independence Day. Avinu Shabbat Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu, Hagen Aleha be'evrat chasdecha, Ufros Aleha Shukat Shlomecha. Ushlach orcha v'amitcha l'rasheha sareha v'yoatzeha v'taknem be'etzat tova milfanecha. Chazek et yidei miginei eretz kodshenu v'hanchilem Eloheinu Yeshua v'ateret nitzachon ta'atrem v'natata shalom ba'aretz v'simchat olam liyoshveha v'nomar Amen. You may be seated. We have a special celebration right now about the Ashrei, and those who have learned it. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the Ashrei right now. The Talmud actually says that anybody who recites the Ashrei 3 times a day is guaranteed a spot in the world to come. I'm curious if anyone, maybe some of our Ashrei Academy members or anyone else has thoughts about why that might be. What's so special about the Ashrei? Anyone? Yeah, Kayla.
It's in alphabetic order.
It's in alphabetical order. Actually,
It was written before prayer books, and that's how people remembered it.
fantastic. I think you read my mind, because actually one of the things the Talmud says is because it's an acrostic. So, and you even gave us a reason why being an acrostic might be a special thing. It is much easier to memorize an acrostic, right? Just think about it. You always know what letter comes next. So, absolutely. There's another reason why an acrostic might be considered in some ways to be a special thing, especially an alphabetical acrostic. Any thoughts why? There's some symbolism to an acrostic. Anyone? Yeah, Michael.
Because it has all the letters
Fantastic. It's all encompassing. We could say something, in this case about God, with every single letter of the alphabet. Fabulous. So we've got two reasons why the acrostic might be special. There's another reason in the Talmud as well. Any guesses? It's actually a particular line in the Ashrei that the rabbis are particularly fond of. Yeah, okay, Terry, please. Poteach et yadecha umaspia lechol chai ratzon. What does that mean? Open up your hands and sustain every living thing. Now, why would that be so special? Or rather, what is that line really saying? Or rather, I translated it a little wrong. I said open up your hands. Literally, it's God opens God's hands. So on the one hand, you could say this is a line that says God sustains life. God gives us everything we need. And on the other hand, maybe we notice that not everyone has everything they need. And we can actually be asking for it, right? We're asking for the most basic thing that there is, for food, for sustenance, for everyone who needs it. There's another thing about that particular line, Poteach et yadecha. It's asking for basic needs. But 2 lines later, there's another line that says, Karov Adonai lechol korav. Anyone, what does that mean? Karov? What's close? So God is close, lechol korav, to everybody who what? God is close to anyone who calls on God. And in the commentary in my People's Prayer book that I took a look at by Rabbi Elliot Dorff, he actually mentions that it's very important that line comes after Poteach et yadecha. Before we can meet any of our spiritual needs, we need to meet the physical ones, right? It's like, you guys know that pyramid of needs, the hierarchy of needs? Yeah. So without meeting our physical needs, we can't actually meet our spiritual needs. And we may know that about ourselves, but it's true of everybody around us too. And so the Ashrei, while it is indeed a prayer that praises God, but it's also a prayer that reminds us that we need to be sure to make sure that everyone around us has their physical needs met, because without that, nobody has any hope of being able to meet our higher level needs as well.